Hello again and welcome to another ZenootTV news show, which of course could never be complete without Matt Chilton. Matt, good afternoon to you.
Thanks, Nick. Good to be back bringing some more manufacturing news.
Okay, let's kick off. Actually, we're starting with a story which is precisely that. It is news about manufacturing.
Yes, indeed it is. And I think obviously anyone watching this show, they're going to know what sector we're talking about. But when we look at output value worth £191 billion to the economy, employing 2.7 million people, responsible for 65% of UK R&D and 16% of all UK investment. We're talking about manufacturing on this show. Of course, it's a bit of a giveaway, but I think those are some quite staggering figures. And we retain our position as the 9th largest manufacturing nation in the world. This is all from Make UK's annual manufacturing fact card, of course.
Yeah, the fact card that they produce with Santander is a really terrific snapshot of where we are in the industry. 53% of exports. I mean, that is terrific figure for manufacturing. Yes, we all know there may be trouble ahead, but in the meantime, we should take a great deal of encouragement. I had the chance to talk to Stephen Phipson, the chief exec of Make UK, about this. I asked him what he thought the key findings of the research were.
I think the overwhelming message, Nick, from the fact card this time round is the importance of the sector to the UK economy, and some really interesting developments. The growth in exports that we're seeing there, and the importance of the export part of it. More than 50% of the country's exports are manufactured goods. The importance of the EU remains solid, and therefore the need to make sure we have a strong relationship with the EU going forwards. The growth in our exports to the United States, but also the quality of the jobs and the fact that we continue to provide jobs which are above average income for the sector, which is very strong.
And as I say, there may be trouble ahead, and Stephen Phipson absolutely clear on the need to get a strong free trade agreement with the EU. And as we speak, of course, things are rumbling on rather menacingly. I just hope that we all hope that that all pans out rather well. But talking of government, which we weren't, but we implied we were, there was some very good news came out on Friday, kind of muted, but we got there in the end. Alok Sharma, the business secretary, came out with some interesting news, Matt, which means that there's a pot of money awaiting manufacturers large and small who've got the right projects to match with it.
Yes, so £300 million worth of funding, 147 million investment by the government. That'll be backed to top up to 300 million by industry. The first £50 million has been released. A number of projects, SMEs and larger manufacturers, to improve digital supply chain efficiency, productivity. Some really great parts to this as well. For example, welding robots and using sensors to actually improve the welding process to, of course, enhance productivity and quality. A sandwich manufacturer that is going to be producing and developing a supply chain system essentially for other food manufacturers to share data so they can learn from one another. And I think that's a really interesting aspect to this, is about businesses learning from one another and actually sharing the data, sharing knowledge for the common good of the sector. And also GKN Aerospace, an augmented reality headset project that they'll be working on. This will be very similar to what we saw a few years ago from ThyssenKrupp and Microsoft HoloLens with their elevator maintenance product, where engineers in the field can dial in remotely to head office to have discussions and actually show people in the innovation centre the problem that they're facing to support with MRO and maintenance of these lifts and elevators. So I think a range of different projects, looking at digital, looking at supply chain improvement, looking at productivity improvement. So there will be more on this story in the coming months and years, so we'll certainly keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I thought what was interesting was they were talking about developing a much more digital ecosystem in the UK supply chain. And it was slightly confusing. I, for one, thought that this was something to do with Made Smarter and maybe a national rollout of Made Smarter. It's not that. The Made Smarter Northwest pilot continues to go from strength to strength, but we haven't seen the national rollout of the programme yet. Fingers crossed, we're going to see something later in the year during the comprehensive spending review. That is to be hoped, at least. But of course, we know how bumpy the financial and governmental road is at the moment. But this funding that was announced last week, I think, is designed to create a more digital universe against which Made Smarter can operate. Talking of smart, the cars being produced up at Nissan, the Nissan Leaf, I'm dying to get my hands on one of those. One pedal, I find that quite extraordinary. But anyway, something of a milestone for them last week.
Yes, production milestone again, and an electric vehicle production milestone. 500,000 Nissan Leaf vehicles have been manufactured globally. 175,000 of those produced at Nissan Sunderland plant since 2013. So I think, if you weren't thinking EV is growing in the automotive industry, I think these numbers will start to get more regular when we're talking about big milestone moments for certain vehicles in the electric vehicle space. So I thought that was nice spot to add in.
Yes, indeed. As I say, I'd really love to get my hands on one of those. Any other news for us, Matt?
Yeah, just an investment story that I thought was quite good from last week. Tobermoor Concrete in Northern Ireland, £30 million investment to grow. They've seen certainly growth from a product sales perspective, so they're investing, creating some new jobs. So even in amongst all the uncertainty, obviously, as we've touched on earlier with Brexit, but also with coronavirus and the impact to the industry, we are still seeing these investment stories and new job creation stories to go with it. So I think we'll try and continue just sort of touching on some of the positives and the growth investment stories as well.
Yeah, and it's so pleasing to see so many of them come out, even, as you say, during a time of great uncertainty for UK manufacturing. But the base is solid and the challenge is there. I'm sure manufacturing is more than ready to rise to it. Matt, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Nick. Look forward to seeing you again next week. All the best.
Matt Chilton there. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. This has been the ZenootTV News Show. See you next time.